Hello everyone, welcome to an episode of Moestories, and today's episode was inspired by Larry Graves' ASMR channel. He also goes by the name of Canadian Studmuffin, which is a second channel that he has. But today he re-released an episode where he was talking about the times when he was young and he was stealing and stuff. And it's kind of it was kind of a good idea, and I was meaning to do something of the same nature, but it took seeing his video today to kind of get me to do this video today, where I kind of talk about some of the few crimes, well, petty crimes that I've done as a teenager, and one a little bit older. Well, you'll see. I'll get to that. Now, the first story is the very first time, and this is for sure the first time that I ever stole anything from a store when I was like maybe 8 years old, 9 years old. We went down to the corner store when I lived up in, because we lived up in a little town called Bouctouche. It's north of Moncton here, off of the shoreline, and yeah, we went down to the store, and I didn't know any better really. It was like we barely ever went to the store, but I saw something in the store that I really wanted to get, and so I took it. And when we got home, my dad saw me playing with it, and he asked me where I got that from, and I didn't understand. I guess I didn't really understand the concept of money at that time, because like I saw something I wanted and I kind of took it, and I didn't even think of the consequences of what the action was or how I was being bad. But I had told this story to a friend of mine when I used to work at the cinema, and he bought me the object that I had stolen at original time as a memento, basically, of that story. And what I had stolen was this: is the Spy Who Loves Me car, the Lotus Esprit SI, the one that goes underwater. I was a I loved that movie. As a little kid, I loved James Bond, of course. Who doesn't? And when I saw that, I couldn't resist stealing that. It was just so cool, and I got home and I was playing with it, pretending, like, in the air, pretending that it was underwater and everything. And and yeah, my dad made me bring it back. I felt so embarrassed, and I didn't want to give it back, of course, because I loved it and I wanted to keep it. I was so sad and heartbroken. I didn't think I did anything wrong. They had multiples, and I thought to myself, well, they're not going to miss one of those. They had like a dozen of them or so. But yeah, my dad made me bring it back. It told me it was wrong and that I needed money to buy stuff in that. So I never ended up getting it until maybe I would say 7 8 years ago, when my buddy from Cineplex bought me this. And I really want to thank Renee for buying this for me, because you're a cool dude. I see him every once in a while. He works at Spin It here in Moncton, and he's a really nice guy. And if you're ever in Spin It off a Main Street there, just tell him I said hello. So that was the first thing I ever stole in my life. Now, okay, in my teenage years, being a heavy metal fan, this is a second little story here. Being a heavy metal fan and loving pinups and posters from you get these rock magazines, like it was Hit Parader, there was Wire, or there was a couple of different heavy metal magazines that the stores had, and you could. Well, what me and a buddy did, I'm not gonna throw him under the bus. I'm not gonna mention who he is. But me and a buddy, we were into collecting those pinups, like, especially if they were a twofold, a fourfold, or an eightfold, like, little mini posters. And we couldn't really afford to buy magazines every now and then. So what did we do? We would get like our school books. Like school books, we'd be pretending to be looking at the pages, and then we would, so if it was a cool pinup and something we really wanted, we would kind of pop it out of the center, very gently, and make sure that they weren't watching, and then we stick it into our books, into our school books, because we didn't have the book bag with it. We just have school books, and we would take it out and slide it in there and walk away with some cool pinups in that. Now, I'm not saying it was right. I'm not saying that I would never tell anybody to do that, because I'll get to a point there where I want to say that you don't lie, cheat, or steal. And there was a certain point in my life where I stopped lying, cheating, and stealing, and 100% I never lie, cheat, and steal anymore, and I do not condone anybody ever doing these types of crimes, ever, because it's morally wrong, and it's you get kind of self-conscious about it, and it kind of eats you up a little bit inside. So consider this a bit of my confessions, and just little petty crimes like that I've done growing up, and I'm sorry for doing that. For the store owners who had to figure out that there was stuff missing from their books, I do apologize. And, but this was in my teenage years that I've done stuff like this. I also went into like Walmart or record stores, and also like I had stolen cassette tapes from big franchise stores, and that. Never like the smaller stores, like we had I think A&M Records, and we had like a Samder Record Man's and Radioland and stuff like that. I never stole from them. I always stole from the bigger chain stores, like Walmart. Would go in there, and it was but they made it so easy at the time to steal cassette tapes. And this was before CDs came around, before I started getting into CDs and that, and I never ever stole a CD. That I can say for sure. But back in the day, in my teenage years, I had stolen cassette tapes, and again, I'm sorry for that. I do feel bad that I've done that. But when you're a teenager, you don't think about that kind of stuff. Your morality is all over the place. But, yep, those were some of the crimes that I did as a teenage. Now, this last kind of petty crime that I did, this was actually when I was living in Montreal, when I moved back to Moncton, and that would have been in September, around September of 2011, where I moved back to Moncton. That is when I had promised myself that when I moved back to Moncton, and I've been back now in Moncton for the last 12, almost 13 years. Yeah, about 12 years now. And I had made a promise to myself, a vow, never to lie, cheat, or steal again. To really stand by, because I really wanted to use the morality and the good lessons from my favorite band Tool to make myself a better person, to be a better person. And I promise you that I have not lied, cheated, or stolen anything within these last 12 years. I really do everything in my power to be a good person and be an honest person. But one of the last crimes that I did, and this is an interesting little story, is when I was living up in St. Rose, it's a little bit north of the island. When you get the island of Montreal, and just north of the island, across the river, I think Trois-Rivières was called. I was living with a buddy there, and I had no money at all, and I needed to take the train into town and back because I had to pick stuff up from town and from the city, and it was necessary for me to go down there to get some stuff and bring it back home. Now, going into the city, there was no problem. Now, the crime was that if you can take the train, you can get on and take the train, and every once in a while, it wasn't all the time, but every once in a while, the train guards or whatever would walk through the train and ask people to show you their ticket. And if you didn't have a ticket on you, they would give you a fine. So, like I said, I didn't get caught on the way to the city. It was on my way back home. But I was prepared for that. I figured that if for some reason they would catch me without a ticket, the first thing I would say is that I had a ticket. I can't remember how much it cost because a friend bought it for me. And I needed to go get home, and I had no money, but he had a ticket, and I don't know, I lost a ticket. They didn't believe that story because they hear that all the time. Even if it would have been true, they don't ever consider that story to be true or whatever. Even if it was true, but it wasn't. It was a lie, of course. But I was prepared. I had a fake name, which I always use. If anybody asked me, if I didn't want somebody knowing my real name, I had a fake name that I gave, and I've always used that same name all the time. I'm not going to say what the name is here, but I had a pseudonym that I would use, first and last, completely different than my own name, and they wanted to know an address, but I didn't have my ID on me purposely. I didn't have my ID on me, but I had a little notepad, and in the back I wrote out an address, and it was to a place. Okay, the street was real, and the house used to be there. There was a number for the house, but the house had been condemned and torn down months ago, but I remembered the number, so I wrote that number down, and so this is the address that I gave him, to a place that was non-existent. Gave him a fake name, and I swear I could have won the Oscar. I could have won, an award for my performance, because I seemed all freaked out and worried, and said, oh no, it was a $75 fine that they were going to give me. And they said, well, you need to be here at the courthouse at the such and such. They gave me the fine. They told me where I had to go and pay the $75. But of course, I'm not going to go because they had the wrong person. They had I'll give the initials, a TC. TC at this from this non-existent address. And yeah, basically, I got away with stealing a ride on the train from the city into the suburbs, basically, to get home. And yeah, and that was basically the very last petty crime. And I would call them petty crimes. It's not like I murdered anybody, which I never ever would do. I never want to harm anybody. So yeah, those were some of the petty crimes that I've done, like some from my teenage years, and that one time in Montreal. In Montreal, I didn't regulate whether so much whether I did right or wrong. It was a different time. But like I said, when I moved back to Moncton, I made a promise to myself that I would never lie, cheat, or steal ever again because of my favorite band, Tool, and I stuck to that. So the person I am today, I am a truthful, honest, good-natured person as much as I can be, because it makes me feel better about myself. It makes me feel yeah, like a real human being, and not some a-hole. And yeah, it's just it's for my own peace of mind. It's to really let go, and this is why I'm confessing this to you now here. Is also in a way to. It doesn't make it right. I am sorry and wrong for doing any for those petty crimes, but that's the way things go sometimes, and that's things happen, and you do stupid things here and there. Now, again, I want to thank Larry Graves for his video today, for giving me this. Well, not giving me so much the idea, but getting me to do this type of video today instead of waiting down the line a little bit. So I'm going to leave you here, and as always, please be safe, take care. I will see you on the flip side, and please have a great day, evening, night, wherever you may be. Peace, everyone.